Excellent. And folks are trickling in. We are about to be inundated with with faceless boxes for the time being. Some folks have pictures. So, but thanks to everybody and welcome. We'll go ahead and get ourselves started in the interest of time, recognizing that we've got a lot of ground to cover and a really fantastic conversation to get off the ground. As you're coming in, you'll notice that your microphones are muted. That is by intention, by design. We want to make sure that we are limiting the number of interruptions to the conversation to give these two great leaders a chance to speak freely on the questions that we've got prepared for them. For those of you who are tuning in, and especially those of you who've had a chance to watch those videos ahead of time, the conversations that took place just prior to this one, we've got an opportunity for you guys to ask questions. I'm going to ask that you do that in the form of sending your questions directly to me. So if you're unfamiliar with Zoom, there's an option to go down into the chat and to click chat someone. Oh, actually, it looks like chat's disabled currently. So I'm going to wait on Ali to get that reopened, Ali and Dave to get that open for us. But once we've got the chat opened up, I'm going to encourage all of you who do have questions to chat those directly to me, such that at the end of the conversation that we're about to have with these leaders, I can present those questions to them, get your questions answered by them. But we'd like to field those from you in the form of chat communications directly to me, Fenwick Broyard, because I'm moderating the conversation. So by way of introduction, I'll start by saying I'm Fenwick Broyard. For those of you who I do not know, I'm the Vice President of Talent and Culture for Creature Comforts Brewing Company. Very grateful to be here. Looks like we do have chat working. All right, cool. So make sure you send your questions through the chat. But want to start by saying thank you, of course, to our hosts for this event, the UGA Willson Center. Very dear institution, dear representatives of an institution in our town. This is actually the first event of the Willson Center's Global Georgia Public Event Series, which is a series they'll be running throughout the spring. And so we're excited to be the inaugural event of that series. I want to also give a special shout out to the other UGA partners who are helping to present this event, that being the Office of Sustainability, the College of Public Health, and the Terry College of Business. Special thanks to all of those folks for helping us to present this conversation today, which is a conversation on diversity, community, and sustainability between the heads of the two breweries, Sierra Nevada and Creature Comforts, speaking directly into the commitment that those two breweries have to doing good and doing so better. So on the call with us today, we've got Jeff White, who's the CEO of Sierra Nevada, which is the 2021 Get Comfortable Beer collaboration partner for Creature Comforts. And then also our very own Chris Herron, CEO of the Creature Comforts Brewery. And I'll open it up to you two folks and give y'all a chance to kind of give a brief introduction to the people on the call of yourselves and kind of your roles within your companies. We'll go ahead and start with Jeff. We're going to start out west, where we know it's a little bit earlier, and give you a chance to speak in first.
Thanks, Fenwick. It's great to be here. Jeff White, I've been with Sierra Nevada now for 8 years. And have been in beer and craft beer since the early 80s. So one of the old timers back when it wasn't called craft beer, it was called microbrewing. I'm an East Coaster, transferred to the West Coast. Started in New York with a small company called New Amsterdam Beer, which is probably only known by those craft beer historians. Spent a little bit of time at another small brewery called Anheuser-Busch. That didn't work out so well for me. Spent 17 years at Boston Beer Company, Sam Adams, 5 at Miller Coors, and then thankfully my long dream ended up with Sierra Nevada, which is a place I wanted to be since probably 1991. And I'm got crazy fortunate enough to get the role of CEO 2 years ago from Ken Grossman, our founder. Ken's still here all the time, so helping me out. But moving on, we've been here 40 years, we're moving on to our next 40 and looking forward to building the business to endure.
Awesome. Thank you, Jeff. What about you, Chris? Give everybody a little introduction of yourself. Not that you need one for a lot of the folks on the call.
We'll assume I do. Hey, my name's Chris Herron. I'm the CEO, one of the co-founders, as Fenwick mentioned, of Creature Comforts Brewing Company. I haven't been in the industry quite as long as Jeff, but I have been in it since really early 2000s. So I'm just about to 20 years in the beverage alcohol industry. Most of that time in beer. I started with Miller Brewing Company, so we have some shared time there, and then worked for a company called Diageo, which is a big mostly spirits company, but they also own Guinness in particular on the beer side, and then left that all to help start Creature, gosh, almost 7 years ago now. It'll be 7 years in April. And so I'm a Georgia native, born and raised in Stone Mountain, Georgia, and then moved around a little bit with my career and through college, and then ended up back here. Yeah, April of 2014 when we opened the doors of Creature. So super excited to be here and looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. And y'all have both actually y'all have sort of anticipated my first question and answered the first part of it, which was to get you to kind of share a bit about your journey in craft beer. But I'm going to ask you the second part of that question. And Chris, I'll ask you to answer it first about like how you got started. Like what led you to beverage as an industry that you decided to pursue a career in?
Yeah, like many things, it's kind of a weird story. I think like a lot of kids in college, maybe later half of college, I got to learn about beer and get introduced to it and thought it was pretty cool. And so that I ended up with an internship junior year going into my summer going into my senior year with Miller Brewing Company. And so it's not a crazy story. Just at a career fair, had a giant booth, said, that sounds like exactly what I would want to do. I didn't know what they were hiring for, but it sounded like a fun company and a fun job. It ended up being a pretty intense internship program. They didn't hire a whole lot of folks. And then I was offered an opportunity after that to come on and work with them full time. So I graduated and started right away with Miller, and I began my career in the beer industry, and have been in it ever since. It's a really great industry.
Yeah. And what about you, Jeff? What drove you towards beverage and beer in particular?
Well, I'll try to keep it relatively short. But I grew up, those of us in the beer industry, there's a newsletter for the beer industry called Beer Marketers Insights, started by a guy named Jerry Steinman. It's now run by his son, Benj. And I grew up 8 houses up the street from the Steinmans. Benj's younger brother, Glenn, was my best friend my whole life. And Benj has known me every day of my life. So I was in the beer business. My first job ever was working for Beer Marketers Insights as vice president of distribution when I was 12, because he needed a name. I was stuffing envelopes, but we talked about beer a lot. That's not why I got into beer. I actually got into beer sort of backwards. I had out of graduate school, and I was interviewing for jobs because I needed to get a real job and pay back student loans. And I was interviewing with a bunch of people in New York City banking and Wall Street. I was an economics major, then an ag economics major. And I finally got this guy to go, listen, Jeff, you're a qualified guy and you seem smart and everything. It was going to be my first real job. And he goes, so I'm willing to offer you a job, but I don't think you should take it because you don't belong here and you won't be happy. So I want you to think about it. And I left and I was like, thank God, because I was going to be miserable. I was going to be running the traveler's check division of Chase. It was a very exciting thing. So I ran away, got a job at a small winery in Pennsylvania, and then got a connection to New Amsterdam through Glenn Steinman, lied my way into that job, and haven't left the beer business since.
I'm intrigued by that because there's a bit of a thread running between both of y'all. I mean, Chris obviously didn't get quite as forceful a bit of pushback on any career pursuits, but you said there was something about beer and learning about it at that career fair that seemed like, this could be something I'd like to do. And then Jeff as well. I mean, you got you won't be happy in this other field and then ended up in a vineyard. What about beverage made that, what about that was appealing to you as opposed to the other options that seemed like they were available to the both of you? Maybe Jeff, you can go first this time. I'm going to go back and forth with y'all.
Yeah, for me anyway, there's a couple of things. One, it's a real tangible product, and in that way I'm relatively simple. It's a real tangible product. I enjoy it. and it's very sort of people oriented. You know, it's all good. And so the idea of making something that was a real consumer product that could be shared, and it was the making of it that got me first. It just seemed personal, and that was a part that I think that the person that I interviewed with saw in me, that for me, it's all very personal. And I was about to enter into a very impersonal space. And craft particularly, I'll say one of the reasons why that stint at Anheuser-Busch didn't work out for me was because it went from being very personal to very impersonal. And why craft, I think, works so well is because for all of us, it's too hard to not be passionate.
Right on. What about you, Chris?
Yeah, I think it's kind of similar. You know, going through college, I thought a lot about getting a job and what types of companies. I was a finance major, so I was actually thinking investment banking, kind of New York as well. And what struck me with Miller was, I mean, at the time, it was a product that I used, you know, and I never really thought about that I liked the idea of selling it. Sounded intriguing to me. It was something that, you know, that I was interested in. And so it definitely was a bit of a, even like young paradigm shift for me, away from sort of, hey, we're just going to go try to do something that, you know, I think you can make, that I thought I could go make money at, to, you know, this is interesting, you know, and this is kind of like, I'm excited by the prospect of it, because I'm interested in the product. And so I think that was, you know, early on for me, kind of this move into making a decision that was a little more, okay, you know, do something that you're going to enjoy doing. And I really felt like I'd enjoy working for Miller at the time.
Yeah, right on. Thank you all both for that. And actually, my next question kind of stems directly off of this one. Jeff, you talked about the sort of personal elements of the beer industry and craft in particular, and just how people oriented the industry tends to be. So, I mean, as folks who watched the videos have probably seen, both Creature and Sierra have positioned the breweries to serve the cities that in which they're located, and the cities that they love. Out of curiosity, what inspired that mission, that sense of altruism that y'all seem to exude so effortlessly? What inspired that mission? And secondarily, like, what value do you see that mission, that altruism, adding to the brewery? This one's let's go Chris first.
Sure. Yeah, I'm sure that there's a bit of this in, you know, that sort of is like, you know, it's grounded in your parents or your how you grew up. You know, I honestly feel like our employees, like our team members at Creature have really inspired it. You know, I say often that, you know, we are a far better company today than when we started. We've got far greater aspirations. I think we have a much better understanding of what it means to be a great company. And I think that's really a testament to us just being open to learning from the ideas and listening to the team at Creature Comforts. You know, I think they've really pushed us to become the company that we've been able to come. And, you know, I think in terms of adding value, there's, you know, sort of tangible and there's intangible. And, you know, I do believe that consumers are interested in the companies, you know, who the companies are that they're purchasing products from. And from even a purely economic standpoint, you know, if a consumer attributes more value to your brand than they do someone else's, economically speaking, then you can charge more money for your brand than someone else, right? And so, which is a good thing, because there's often a higher cost associated with creating the type of company that people respect and love. But I think consumers, you know, are able to do that math and say, you know what, I'm going to pay a little extra for this, but I believe that by doing so, you know, that I'm doing something good. And, you know, doing good is good to do. And people, you know, feel that. So I think there is some sort of tangible benefits that can be associated with being a good company. There's certainly the intangible side of that as well. That's not entire. I mean, there's quantifiable aspects like employee retention is better, and you know, you can attract better employees. But the other side is like people just enjoy working and in that environment and being around that. We all work for so much of our life that, you know, I think that's the big piece. That's the sort of intangibles. It just, I think you have happier people around that you're around all the time.
Yeah. What about you guys over at Sierra, Jeff? What inspired that sense of altruism, and what value does that add to y'all brewery?
Well, I'd like to say that I inspired it, but boy, I was inspired by it. So like I said, I had great jobs and I was working for great companies, but when I saw the Sierra Nevada label, I felt something, and I literally very really wanted to work here for a long, long time. So what inspired it is the source of this business, which is Ken Grossman and now the Grossman family. It, it, my sense would be this was nothing planned, thought of, constructed. This was a human being himself, and doesn't know any other way. I tell this story about when I interviewed, and I come from a business school background, and I've come from these bigger companies. And Ken was giving me a tour of the brewery before we went to dinner, where I think I had a job offer, but I wasn't sure. And he was pointing at all this stuff. And we have this healthcare clinic over here. It's free to the employees because people need insurance. And I built this thing, and all these different reasons and justifications for the air compressors or about whatever. We were going to look for these two new crown feeders, and it was, well, these guys, these are the first two they ever made, but they seem like great guys, and I wanted to give them a shot. So I'm coming from a company where it's 2-year ROI or less, otherwise you don't do it. And meanwhile, he's had all these reasons. And so we're sitting at dinner, and I asked him, how do you have a formula that you use to balance the environment and marketing and people and all this stuff? And do you have some sort of, actually said, rubric? And I didn't know Ken very well at the time. And he just looked at me and went, no. And I thought for sure I just lost the job. And in my memory, there was like a 10-minute pause of horribly uncomfortable silence. It was probably 2 seconds. And then he looked down and I went, I blew it. And he looked up and he goes, it's just when I go to bed at night, I don't want to wonder if I've tried to do the right thing. And that's Sierra Nevada. That's the culture. It's like, it's difficult. There's trade-offs, but you have to try. And that, I think everybody that works here feels. In terms of your question about, is this good business or not? I'm a believer that the phrase that I heard once, and I've adopted on my own, is real recognizes real. And you don't have to be overt about it. If you're real, the real in somebody else, it will resonate. They might not know it's resonating, but it will. And also real recognizes bogus. And so what I think the power for Sierra Nevada attracts people, and hopefully what is embedded in our brand, it's what I felt, is it's real. It's not perfect, but it's real. And then the intention and the hope is very real. And I think that's good business. Absolutely.
And I'm sure on our end, we'd like to believe that one of the reasons this collaboration is even happening is that real recognizes real in both directions. And so I'd like to ask both of you, and maybe Jeff, I'll start with you. Having now come together to collaborate on the Get Comfortable Hazy Double IPA, what have we learned? What have you guys learned from Creature? And then Chris, what have you learned from Sierra? Like, what shared learnings are we taking away from this experience that are going to make us better companies moving forward?
I'll start real quick, and I'd say that the real recognizing real part happened with Sierra Grossman, who we've done a lot of altruistic and philanthropic work as a company. The family and the company has been very, very generous and giving over time. And as we got bigger, as she spoke in her piece, the level sort of changes, and your ability to impact morphs. And so she was looking to, how do we do this better? And was looking at what other people were doing, and checked in with Creature Comforts, and her real recognized real there. And so I think we look forward to learning a lot from Creature Comforts in the Get Comfortable campaign. And I think we're in the early stages of learning, and ideally learning together. But certainly the notion of incorporating multiple stakeholders and to create sort of a common initiative, as opposed to just picking and choosing by ourselves.
Right on. And Chris, what about you? What do you think we're learning at Creature from this partnership with Sierra?
Yeah, we're probably learning more than they are. I'm okay with that. I think that, for me, and you listen to Jeff talk, just how important it is that it's truly like not lip service, right? That it's like that it's built into the DNA of the organization, that it is personal, as Jeff has said, here and in the other video that you were with him on. I mean, that understanding that, and how do you really make that a part of the culture, right? So I mean, going out and just doing things so that you can tell people that you do them isn't enough. I mean, that, for some, hey, I'd rather they do that than do nothing. But really, to become the type of legacy driven type of organization and to have what Sierra has, it takes an incredible amount of genuine thoughtfulness every single day. That does, it doesn't always start at the top. It can start anywhere, but it's got to be recognized and it's got to be cultivated. You can't just wake up and promise each other every day that you're going to be a great company. You have to practice it every single day. No one wins championships saying, getting together and saying, hey, we're all promised to win, right? You got to get out there and you practice it every day. And whether it was, Mandy on their, social responsibility, or Scott Jennings on the brewing side, or Sierra Grossman on the community that we've been able to talk to, or even your conversation with Jeff on the DEI and justice, like, you just see how real it is for all of them and how it is a genuine part of who they are. Whatever they work on, they're just passionate about it. And so that's been one of the big takeaways for me, is just, ensuring that we are doing what we need to do for it to be personal, and how do you ensure that happens all the way through the company, is just, that's going to be one of the big takeaways for me, at least. Is just, we sat on the ground when we were building Creature and used to drink pale ale, talking about them. And I've just, they're far cooler than I even knew, getting to know them more.
Well, as before I got here, one of the things I think is worth pointing out, though, and it sort of relates to the diversity and inclusion part, is we're 1,100 plus people now, and to be personal to 1,100 plus people, there are 1,100 individuals, and we are not all the same, and what is true and right and real to all of us. So it's finding what is that common thing. What can we all be attracted to? What can we all say that is objectively right, while still allowing us to have our individuality? It gets harder and harder as you get bigger, but it's kind of the rich tapestry. So it is personal, but we have 1,100 personalities, and it's pretty wild. It's pretty wild.
That's absolutely.
Do what you all do, it wouldn't be rare, and it wouldn't be so impressive. And so I think that's, it's harder now with 100 employees than when it was 5 of us. But just seeing that y'all have figured out, how to at least encourage it, right? And to be intentional about it and not give up when it got hard, I think is definitely it's a good reminder.
Yeah. I think you're right. The word there, intent, is I think that's real here, and the commitment to try, or to keep trying. And I won't say that's the best we can do, but that's the ticket to the dance.
Yeah, absolutely. That's just incredibly sound counsel, Jeff. And I'm going to ask a follow-up question to that one that hopefully doesn't feel too extractive, but I think it's in keeping with what Chris was suggesting about us maybe having more to learn from y'all than y'all from us. But like, as a brewery that started in Chico, California, and then built another location in Mills River, North Carolina, like what advice would you give to Creature as we work to open another brewery location out in Los Angeles?
Don't do it. Don't do it. Stop now. No. That wouldn't be it. Buckle up. That'd be the first one. No, I think, there's some things that, and again, the decision to build a second brewery predated me. But I think there were some really good things done. First, very intentional about where we did it and how we went about building it and what we wanted it to be. It is, platinum LEED certified. Everything about it was very, very intentional and thought out, including inoculating, if you will, it with people from Chico. So you mentioned Scott Jennings. So Scott Jennings was here. And so as we want to make sure that the Sierra Nevada culture, we started the culture. The yeast is there. We need to grow it up and it will take on its own characteristics. But we started with our strain of yeast there. That was really important. And then also to let it develop its own local culture. To try to take the Northern California mindset and put it into Western North Carolina, it would be, the host would reject the new organ. You need to let it be itself and be clear on what is profound and lasting about your culture. And so that's, I think, the main thing is make sure that that there are physical people from Athens that are there and there often, but don't try to turn it into Creature Comforts Athens. Make it its own thing.
Yeah, right on. I'm looking for, so we've got the brewery location planned in Los Angeles, Jeff, and you said that your second location predated your arrival, but in 5 to 10 years, where do you see Sierra headed? What's next on the horizon for Sierra Nevada in the 5 to 10 year window?
Ooh. I'm hoping that there's adequate demand so that we either need to expand the breweries we have or there's a third one. I don't know that I want to be around for the building of the third one. That's when Ken can come back in full time. The drinker continues to evolve. If you go back 10 years, what the world looked like 10 years later. And so what I think we want to do is we want to continue to meet the drinker where they want to be. I don't want to try to convince people to buy what we make. I want to make what people really want to buy, but I want us to do it in a way that we are proud of. And that kind of, so I could say we can change what we do and what we make without changing who we are. And so, there's a lot of talk about seltzers, and I'm not a seltzer drinker, and we can say it's not craft. And we'll have salespeople going, we really need to get into this because it's really hot and they're selling a ton. And all I would say is bring me one that you were proud of. And if there is such a thing, we would do that. And if there isn't, then that's not a place for us. And are we walking away from 1 million barrels? Okay, but it's not worth it if we're not proud and it's personal. And so I just hope that we continue to make amazing, high quality products that thrill people. And that every one of us are proud of.
Right on. And Chris, I mean, I've got a touch of insight in this, but curious, I'm sure there are plenty of folks on the call curious to hear where are we headed in 5 to 10 years and what's next on the horizon for Creature?
Yeah, I mean, I would echo what Jeff said and tie it into sort of our mission statement as a brewery, and part of that being that we want to be build an industry respected brewery. And what we always mean by that is that we're proud of everything that we do. We're proud of what we do and how we do it. And kind of to his point, that's the deciding piece on if we release a beer. I never want Jeff to come visit our brewery in Athens and have to hope he doesn't order one of the beers on the menu. We want to always be extremely proud of everything. And so, we have some strategic stuff. We have a strategy. We want to be great and growing. And so in that growing piece, we look at, we're obviously working on this brewery in Los Angeles. We do hope to be able to plant some more small breweries around the country. We also, if one of those is successful somewhere, maybe even another large brewery somewhere around the country. And then, we will continue to look at spaces and categories that we don't play in yet. And that could be in beer. And I think there could be places that are beyond beer that we'll look at, that, things that sit at that intersection of our purpose, which is to foster human connection, and what I'd say our performance capabilities are, which is around sort of adult beverage flavors, if you will. And so, I think that's part of what we'll, continue to move forward towards. And then on the great side of that equation, we're working on our B Corp certification. We're in the hopper. We're in the audit process. We're expecting to get certified as a B corporation, which is fantastic. And I really do hope that we're advocates in 5 to 10 years. We're still advocating for and have seen improvement within our industry across diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice that we have been talking about, sustainability, community impact in particular. I want us to continue to be industry respected. And I think that the most respected breweries in our industry will be those who continue to make focused effort in those areas. And so I certainly hope for that and expect for that to be the case from our team here.
Right on.
And I just want to comment on the foster human connection thing. Every time I hear that, I don't know, it just resonates, and I think it is an outstanding encapsulation of an outstanding mission, needed more than ever. So I love that.
Yeah, it's been an interesting one to lean into during COVID, but it led to us making hand sanitizer. And it led to that. That's the kind of thing that led to us saying, all right, well, what are those barriers? And what are we resourced to be able to do? There's a lot of things we can't do, but what can we?
I'm going to ask you both one last sort of future-oriented question, and this one might be putting you both on a little bit of a hot seat, but do either or both of you envision any future collaborations between Sierra Nevada and Creature Comforts beyond the Get Comfortable Hazy IPA?
I'm not so bold as to ask. I'll jump in and just say so that they don't feel pressure. We were fortunate enough to participate with them in their beer camp series in the past, and we're certainly kind of unendingly grateful for their willingness to partner on Get Comfortable. I don't know if there's beers in the future or not, but I feel certainly very confident in saying that we will continue to leverage a lot of these relationships that have been built during this time, to continue to seek guidance from them and ideas. So I see a lot of collaboration. Certainly I don't know if they'll be on beers, but so much of our industry, collaboration happens in ways that the consumer never sees, and I definitely, we certainly aspire to continue to collaborate across a lot of the stuff that we're learning from each other right now.
Yeah, what he said. No, the beer thing, it could happen, it could not happen, I don't know, but I think Chris is absolutely right. Having met each other and gotten to know each other, we will be there for each other. And the cool thing about even old world beer, inside the brewery, people helped each other out all the time because we're all up against the same stuff. The cool thing about craft beer is the consumer sees these beer collaborations, but the other collaborations of problem solving, just resource sharing and the like, that happens all the time. And we have, with regard to things like Get Comfortable, Sierra Nevada is usually because the giver of these things. It's a great for us. We're the receiver on this end, and so there's lots of things we can learn and sometimes relearn. And so that type of collaboration, I feel very confident that we're connected, and that connection is not going anywhere.
I know. Chris, I'm going to toss this next one to you first, and Jeff, I'll follow up asking you the same question. Right? We learned from the videos that both Creature Comforts and Sierra Nevada make heavy investments in the communities. I'm wondering if you could both tell us a little bit about the specific investments that you make in your own people. We talked about the sort of the personal aspect of this business and the people-oriented nature of craft. Wondering if you could talk a little bit about what your breweries are doing respectively to make investment in the people who help you to bring forward the great product.
Yeah, sure. So I'll kind of answer this in maybe two ways a little bit. I think, there's a tactical side to that, right? It's, competitive salaries and bonus structures and health benefits and, health benefits, including like financial health, mental health, variety of different ways that, physical health, different ways that we can invest in our people. What I've learned though, over a little bit of time here is that, and that the studies show, right, the number one reason people love where they work, which is kind of the biggest investment we can do, is create an environment that people love working in, is because they believe that the work that they're doing matters and that it serves a greater purpose. And then the second thing is that, they need opportunities to grow professionally and personally. And so when it comes to building an environment that people want to work in, those aren't usually done by directive. They're done by electives, so you need to listen to your employees and allow them a voice and a way to come and talk. And whether that's through our monthly town halls or just through the ongoing feedback loops that we create, ensuring that we're listening and hearing what they have to say is, I think, one of the, the best ways that we can invest in our people. Without a doubt. Again, just creating an environment where they spend 8 hours a day, maybe, that they actually enjoy is the biggest thing. And then, we're also going to continue trying to grow, because if we don't grow, we don't only stagnate our business, we stagnate our people's ability to grow and develop. And so we are, aspirationally desiring to grow our business, because then that gives more opportunities for those folks to grow and take on more. So there's sort of the tactical things that you do, but for me, it's, it really hinges on this idea of creating an environment and a purpose that people can align on, and ensuring that we're growing and creating opportunities for them.
Yeah, I think Chris covered most of it. I mean, we have historically, again, from the beginning of the company, been quite generous on things like healthcare and other benefits. And it's very much, look, you come to work, you work hard, and you get paid, and you get paid competitively, and that's great. But, we hope you're here for a long, long time. And so there's a lot of stuff that's meant to be, the expectation was you're gonna spend your life here and you're gonna have a good life for after you're here as well. And so there's been a lot of that. But as the company gets bigger and we start to, need to organize ourselves a little more systematically, the risk is that it becomes more impersonal, that you have salary bands versus talking to a person about their great work. And so, very candidly, this is something that is ongoing for us, is how do we maintain the individual, but also create an environment that is professional, so that you can have these growth opportunities. But and there needs to be some structure to that, but you don't want it to be so structured that it becomes impersonal. And the notion, that we talk about the DE&I work, and this came from early on, something that Mandy showed me, which was the shortened phrases: seat at the table, voice at the table, heard without bias, right? And that's what I think we can do and continue to need to strive to do for our employees, is create that culture where everyone knows they have a seat. And if you're sitting in that chair, your voice is there to be used, and we'll hear it. And it will be incorporated in our thinking. That, I think, is the best thing we can do for our people. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you, and we are so there, let me show you the book I'm going to write about it. It's constant work. But as Chris said earlier, it's about the intention. And then it's about getting and doing the work. And so the investment I see us trying to make going forward in our people is to give them voice, and to hear that voice. This is their company.
I appreciate what Jeff said there as well, because I think, to lean into that DEI conversation, right? This is, it has to be that way for any person, and we absolutely have work to do, as starting in our own home, in our own business, to ensure that we're creating that. And that is one of the things that we've realized, particularly over the last 7-8 months. It takes the same sort of intentionality as anything else. These biases are often unspoken. They're unrealized until you turn over the rocks and look at the squiggly things underneath and say, holy cow, how did we get here? And so that's a big piece of, I think, to answer, like, how do you invest in your people? It's recognizing, like, that they are all, that every one of them needs these opportunities, and making sure that you're creating an environment where that can happen, which is, is something that we've got to work on, and we are working on. And like all things, to kind of use a Phil Knight from Nike, right? Like there is no finish line. You never just get there and then you've achieved it. We're going to do this forever, at this point. So it's an important point.
Yeah. I got one final question before we open it up for questions from the folks who graciously decided to join us. And this one's a two-pronged question. And Jeff, we'll go ahead and start with you on this one. I think it's your turn up in a rotation. But so on one hand, I'd like you to speak to what do you hope your personal legacy will be? And then sort of secondarily, what legacy do you hope Sierra Nevada will leave? So two parts to that question, one about you, one about the brewery, and both with respect to legacy.
So I'll start with mine. I have this vision of my last day of work. And that is that I get up from my desk, I take a couple of personal pieces of paper from my desk, I turn off my computer, I push my chair under my desk, I walk out the door. I was going to say I turn off the lights, but the lights go off automatically because there's no more person there. And I leave, and nothing has zero impact on the business. That's the legacy I want, is you walk away and everything completely unnecessary. A lot of people would say I have achieved that today, but I would add it's completely unnecessary and everything's going beautifully. So that would be my personal legacies. I disappear and nobody notices. For the company, for me, and I tell this to people, I've had just a remarkably fortunate career. But for me, this is actually not a job. This is a bit of a mission, and it's the Sierra Nevada legacy. If we can show the world or one other company that having a mindset and a business model that says we will strive to do the right thing is a successful, thriving business model, then more companies will do that. And my 2-year-old grandson will have thousands of companies like that to choose from, not just a couple. So the legacy of Sierra Nevada hopefully is thousands of creature comforts and little Sierra Nevadas that are focused on doing well by doing good, and showing people this is a good way to do business. That's I think the big, long-lasting, world-changing impact that companies can make.
Yeah, I love that. I would, I'll just try to steal most of it. I think, we have a value at Creature. One of our 6 values is to leave a legacy. And for me, quite honestly, what I aspire for our business and what I aspire personally are really the same. It's the same sentence works for both of them. And that sentence for us is that we will set up our successors for success. That those who will follow behind us, right, that they'll be better positioned for whatever it is to come because of the work that we have done, whether that be, from a business perspective, if that's the citizens of our community, the beer industry as a whole, our planet, the families of our employees. I just hope that all of those who come after us will be set up for the absolute best opportunity to succeed as possible. And the same is, really true personally, that my kids and their kids maybe someday are set up for success because of the work that I've done or the values that I've been able to instill in them, that the people who work with me and around me are better prepared for whatever it is that's ahead of them, both personally and professionally. And, I think that, that for me really, in that value of Creature has encapsulated. And I don't think I even realized it until, Creature helped us come up with that value, on what it is that I would want my legacy to be. And so kind of as the thing I said, said a couple times is, we're a far better company today than we were when we started, and that's because of the people who have worked so hard to craft this and mold it into something. And I hope that we'll be even better in the future and inspire others. That's why the strategy is great and growing. We won't, if we're just great, but we don't grow, we worry that others will think that one comes at the expense of the other. And we don't want that to be the message that we deliver. We wanted the message to be, well, hold on, maybe one is the catalyst for the other. You know, maybe being a great company is the catalyst for being a growing company, and that more will be inspired, just as Jeff said. So I think there's some similarity there.
Right on. Right on. And that wraps it up in terms of the questions that I had. So we're going to turn now. And for those of you who maybe joined a little bit late or perhaps didn't hear this announcement at the beginning, if you've got questions that you'd like to get before the two CEOs represented here, please chat those to me privately, and I'll be able to direct them to the appropriate party. I'm going to go ahead and ask one right off the bat that's been sitting in the chat waiting to be asked, which is a perfect next question, because we were talking about legacy sort of looking forward. This one's really about more thinking about legacy to date. And the question that this individual is asking is, of the many accolades and contributions that have been made by your respective breweries over the years, what is it that you're most proud of? Thinking about the legacy that has been established up to now, what are you most proud of right now, given what you've been able to accomplish from start to this moment in time? And either one of you can feel free to jump in on that one. I won't be so directive.
I'll say that that's really not for me to say. That's for Ken to say what he would be most proud of. And if I try to channel him, he's not a guy that likes to talk about what he's proud of. He will tell you the work he has yet to do. But I can't help but think that, or I would certainly like him to just take a moment and look at this thing that he built with his own two hands. And, you know, the amazing thing, and Chris I'm not just saying this because I work here, I've worked everywhere else. 40 years in an incredibly competitive industry. And he is universally respected and almost universally admired and loved. I don't know any other person in any other industry that has mimicked that, and he's always been true. So I think the thing that he should be most proud of is that he's always been true, and he leaves behind him a reputation, an earned reputation of being, as it says on our label, of highest quality, not just in beer, but in the way he conducts his life.
Yeah, I mean, sort of two sides, I guess, when just having a minute here to think. So thanks for talking first, Jeff. And kind of, helping you think through that. I mean, on one side, it's I'm almost most proud of the fact of just that we've been willing to challenge ourselves to be better. I think that where we are today is, again, it's just so far from what we could have even dreamed up, and we've had a willingness and openness to allow ourselves to just recognize that we're not good enough, we're not where we need to be honest about that, and put plans in place to move forward. That's sort of like from a business, but I mean, I think personally for me, you mentioned this actually in the one message that you on your video, Fenwick. But it's like the number of employees who have bought new cars or moved into a new home or grown with this company and from a volunteer position to a senior director type position. It's just that's something I'm really, really proud of. And, that desire to keep that momentum going, right? To keep finding ways for that to happen for more people and more types of people as well. Within our company, and which is kind of a testament to recognizing that we have some growth to do in some areas, and so keeping those two things forward, I'm proud of us for always being willing to recognize where we're falling short, admit it, but not just live in it, just to step into that uncomfortableness and figure out how to be better.
So I've got another question. I think this is a fantastic question coming from one of our audience members, and directly in keeping with the theme of the conversations that this one is the culmination of, but specifically to the two of you, and again, either one of you in whatever order you choose to respond. But This question is, where do you see the biggest opportunity to do good better in each of the areas that this conversation is designed around? So we're talking about diversity, community, and sustainability. So what are the biggest areas of opportunity to do good better, and what does better mean in those areas? That's a huge question. So if y'all want to take a couple minutes to think about that one, but I thought that was a fantastic question and allowed us to kind of tie together some of those separate conversations that were happening.
Wow. I'm happy to, you go ahead, Jeff.
No, I'm looking forward to hearing what you say, Chris.
Yeah, when we have a perspective like we have, it's hard to sort of say which area of these areas. I mean, gosh, we've got a lot of work to do in all of them. And when you get to opportunity to collaborate with someone like Sierra, you recognize that, not in a negative way. It doesn't make you feel like, man, you're not doing this yet, but you realize just how great you can be. And I'm sure they would still, to his point a second ago about Ken, they keep their eye focused on where they need to be and not what they've done. And so, certainly we've got a lot of work in diversity, equity, and inclusion. We woke up as a 100-person white company not very long ago, right? And we didn't intend to get there, but we did get there. And I, as the leader, that's on me, for not putting in the practices ahead of time to look at that. And what I've told to our team a lot is, we're either at the end of a really bad story or at the beginning of what could become a great story. And, I like to think that we're at the beginning of what can become a great story. We have a great case study to show somebody someday how you can change it when you wake up in that situation. And that's the outlook we try to take on things, is not to sit and bemoan ourselves about where we're at, but to figure out how to turn this and flip it into something much better. So, that at least for me is one that, that is really high on my mind these days. We definitely have more work that we can do in terms of environmental sustainability. Always more that we can do in social sustainability, in particular environmentally. We're making a lot of progress on energy right now. That's where we're installing solar, which will be going into both facilities, and been purchasing credits as well to try to really to help that piece of that. Water usage is always one that we're looking at intensely as a brewery. And on the community side, I'll just finish there. I know I'm talking a lot here. I think what we need to do in the community side, I think we're very good academically. I think we're really good at we read a lot. We have the right people at the table. I think the next step for us, I've been reading Arthur Blank's new book, Good Company. And it talks a lot about, the piece I think we're missing is getting into the community. I think there's more work that we can do of actually getting out into the community, going to neighborhood meetings, and understanding and assuring that the resources that we're putting into the community are actually the ones that the community is asking for and needs the most. I think that's kind of the next step for me in how we do community better, is ensuring that the people we're serving are represented in the conversations we're having.
Yeah, it's a fantastic question, and whoever the questioner is, one that I think I need to ask myself a bunch to provide the answers, because I think it's an inspiring and motivating thing, because I don't have a ready set of answers. I think one is thinking about capital S sustainability versus small s. And the thing that jumps to mind is sort of social and economic justice. And I know it's a little bit, we're a beer company, but our actions, not just philanthropic actions, but our actions every day can contribute to that if we are intentional about it. Much like Chris, we ended up to be the company where we're trying to do the right thing every day. But you wake up one day and you turn around and go, oh, look what we are. And we could be better. And so it's be better. I think one of the things I'd like to see is for us to overtly be a little more aspirational. I know we work hard every day and we're constantly trying to move forward, but maybe we set some high bars for ourselves to strive for. And by declaring them out loud, we hold ourselves accountable. And quite frankly, knowing us, if we say we're going to do something, we're going to do it. So I think that's one of the ways. And the DE&I work, again, I just go back to this harnessing the power of we. We will do more better things and be more impactful if it's just not a couple of us sitting in a room trying to figure that out. But we harness the power of we, and then we multiply ourselves through those folks. Just because you have ideas, you get on board then. And we're 1,100 people. We can be 1,100 people strong in making impact if we engage them and give them power to use it. So it is a great question. And I'll have a better answer when we do this next time.
Exactly. Well, I think we maybe got time for one more, and I'm going to go ahead and end with this one because it just seems like a really timely one, and also a slightly hopeful one too, given all that we're all grappling with as a nation and in our industry and in our local communities as well. This questioner is wondering, what is the most surprising silver lining that COVID-19 has brought to your organization? I don't even want to try to reframe that one. I think it's a beautifully stated question as is. But yeah, what's the most surprising silver lining? How have we been able to make lemonade, I guess, out of this situation in both of these two businesses?
I'll start with a few. Number one, my appreciation for human interaction and even just contact is so much greater than it ever was. And if you know me, I'm really not the most social guy, and I just can't wait to be around people. But I also think for us, there were a number of things that we were instantly forced to do that we knew we needed to do, that we needed to work on, but without that catalyst, we wouldn't. So the most obvious one is remote workforce. We know, we've talked about it for years, that we need to be more flexible in where people work and their hours of working, and do they have to be in an office or not? And so, intellectually, we would say, yeah, we need to do these things, but we always found things in our way to make them happen. And then it happened one day, and we're really good at it. And we're better. The people are more productive. And all that flexibility that we were afraid of is now a superpower. We have similar experiences in sales where all of a sudden, when your crutch was taken away, but you had to keep walking, you figured out a way to do it, and it turns out it's way better. I could go into specifics ones in sales, but our salespeople now have found ways to be more productive on a daily basis or on a weekly basis, touch more accounts more impactfully in the way they want to than when they were out in the street full time just trying to do it the old way. It's been remarkable, and our business, knock on wood, has responded.
Yeah, I think for us, it's I feel like our purpose is more important than ever. The idea of fostering human connection it sounded really awesome, from the beginning, but in the last 11 months, people have really started to understand it. And I think they've been able to understand a little bit of how beer plays into that. Like when we say we're a brewery fostering human connection, what does it mean? It's like, well, we always say, because our favorite thing about it is, do you want to go grab a beer? It was the connection that happens when two people sat down, and we kind of took away this piece of it, and sort of, I think it helped us realize, at least it's helped me realize, man, this is it's important work. I believe what we're doing is important work in creating this product that allows people to go sit down and engage. And, I'm well aware of the challenges that it creates in a large, or certainly in a number of areas, when it's not handled in moderation and treated with the respect that we think it deserves. But in the right context and in the right amount, I do believe that it can help bring people together. And so I think it's helped us unite around that. And we've certainly seen some of the same stuff like remote work and realizing, okay, we need to rethink this. This is actually working pretty well. And so how do we make that, sort of a broader piece of the strategy? And then for us, it did give us this opportunity to sort of step back for a second, because everything got thrown out the window, and look at everything that we were doing and say, how are we doing? I think we're more efficient now, and out of necessity. Again, it was almost out of elective, not directive. We didn't tell everyone, you need to go be more efficient. It was like, we want to keep everybody employed. and we did. And part of the way that we can do that is we've got to get more efficient because because sales are plummeting. And so, we'll come out of this, I believe, better than we went into it. And I think that's all you can do. We always said we wanted to take this from being a great expense to a great investment. All the lost sales and the lost profit, it's either an enormous expense to our business or it's an incredible investment in our business. And so that's been what we've tried to look at, is say, hey, we have to use this lost money and reframe it in our head to ensure we're getting the absolute most out of it for the future as possible. And I think the team's done an incredible job of doing that.
Right on. Well, gentlemen, I just want to say thank you to you both. I know you're both incredibly busy and have a tremendous amount of responsibility. So thank you all for making time to participate in this conversation. Also, thank you to our presenters, the Willson Center, the Office of Sustainability, the College of Public Health, and the Terry College of Business over at UGA. Thanks to Matt Stevens and the Strategic Impact team for helping to coordinate this awesome conversation that we got to have. And thank you to all of you for tuning in and being party to this. And if you haven't already checked out the videos that we've referenced a couple of times in this conversation, I would strongly encourage you to do so, to look into those videos, those prior conversations on diversity, community, and sustainability, to get even more perspective on the great work that these breweries are doing in those three spaces as both of them honor their commitment to do good better. So with that, we will go ahead and bring our time together to an end. We've got that link to the videos in the chat. Thank you, Matt, for dropping that in there for anybody who hasn't yet had a chance to visit that link and to access those videos. Please, 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 I strongly encourage you to do so. And again, thank you so much for tuning in. And please plan on purchasing the Get Comfortable Hazy IPA, Get Comfortable in Sierra Nevada Collaborative Hazy IPA. Please plan on purchasing as much of that. The funds from that will go towards doing good better in our community. So thank y'all so much for being here. Thanks everybody for hosting and participating.
Thank you, Fenwick. Well done. See you, Chris.
Appreciate that.